Hey friends, it's Jenna. In today's video, we are going to be going over new PAT MCGRATH launches. The first one is actually the Midnight Voyage little mini palette. I do have a lot of thoughts here. We're also going to be talking about the new Divine Blush Duos, which I have one here, and I also have one of the highlights. So these are three of the latest launches from PAT MCGRATH, and I'm really excited to give you guys my review, so let's get started. Now, if you guys are new here, my name is Jenna and I am a high-end and luxury makeup reviewer. So my category is high-end and luxury because I feel like that is more so where my knowledge is. I get a lot of questions like, do you hate drugstore makeup? I don't hate it. I just know nothing about it. And I feel like it's not going to really help you guys out with making decisions if I don't have any knowledge base on quality or anything. So anyways, PAT MCGRATH is a brand I actually know pretty well, I would say. I review a lot of her products on my channel. I think most things, now that I think about it. And the first product we're going to be talking about is the Midnight Voyage palette, which is her latest mini palette, her latest palette actually that she's put out. Now, this is definitely different in packaging. It is a plastic packaging, kind of like a lavender purple. It does have golden font and design around it, and on the back, you have the legend of all of these shades. I've had a few questions about if any of these shades are her special shades. Actually, the Skin Show formula that she has featured in some of her palettes is technically a unique formulation to PAT. I do think a lot of people, when they think about special shades, they more so refer to the Blitz Astrals. The Blitz Astrals are not in this palette, like the ones that are very gel-like and very sheer but have lots of beautiful glitter. That is not in this palette. This mini palette is made in Italy. There is 3 grams total in this palette. The packaging of this mini was a little bit disappointing to me just because I'm used to a very luxurious packaging style that PAT is capable of. I feel like she can really do a beautiful black lacquer, which is just like her 10-pan Motherships here. So this is an example of one of them. The packaging is insane. And for those of you guys wondering, when it comes to price per gram, we are talking about this mini palette being very, very close to the 10-pan Motherships when it's price per gram. So are these Motherships a lot more money? Yes, because there's a lot more product. I do think that they also, like, price per gram is just a little bit higher, but we're not talking very much at all. The price of this little palette is 38 Canadian dollars, so it roughly works out to $12.6 per gram, whereas the big Mothership palettes work out to $13 per gram, so they're actually very, very close. Now, we do have the size of this palette being micro mini. It is literally the size of my hand. This is the perfect palette for someone that wants to be traveling with it and not really caring about it knocking around in a cosmetic kit or a bag. Now, the other thing that you guys need to know is that this is a 6-pan palette with 5 of the shades being existing shades from other palettes. If you are a fan of PAT MCGRATH, you are a collector of the Mothership palettes. I mean, she puts out the Mothership palettes on sale multiple times a year, 30 to 50% off. So when I share those sales, people go crazy. Definitely subscribe to my channel and I will be sharing all of those PAT MCGRATH sales on my community tab as I see them. But I now have all of them. I mean, I'm also a reviewer, so I do have them for that purpose, but I purchased the rest of them when they were severely discounted. So you can often get them way, way cheaper than their retail price. So the shades that are in here, so Skin Show Divine Glow, which is this kind of golden one in the top left corner. So Entrapment is shade number 2, Extreme Aubergine. I never know how to say that word and I feel so stupid. Aubergine. My bad. Anyways, this purple matte over here, all 3 of those are from Bronze Seduction. I'll show you guys exactly where they are. They're actually here in this left corner. So here, Skin Show Divine Glow, Entrapment, Extreme Aubergine there. There's one shade from Subversive, which is right here. So it's actually this purple, Night Creature. That is actually right here in the bottom right corner of this palette. It is from Subversive, so only one shade there. And we also have one from Divine Rose 2. So Divine Rose 2, the shade is there. It's called Eleganza, which is right here on the bottom row. So the only new shade in this palette is Sunset Bronze up here in the top right corner of the palette. So if you are a PAT MCGRATH collector, I've heard that people still don't mind picking this up for travel purposes, but if you do have these palettes, you are not going to travel with anything like that or something. There really isn't that much of a use or a need for someone that has the majority of these shades already. So that's really the only person that I would kind of be like, no, like definitely don't pick this up. It's not worth it if you're a collector, unless you happen to live on the road and you don't want to travel with those really nice 10-pan black lacquer packaging, because it is pretty big and obtrusive in a travel bag. The quality as well is actually pretty close. It's a really, really nice palette, and the textures and the quality are very similar to their Mothership counterparts. One thing that I will say is that the extreme aubergine in this Midnight Voyage palette right here is actually very, very dry. It's not quite the matte consistency that PAT is known for, and when I did swatch it next to the one from Bronze Seduction, which is actually where it's from, the Bronze Seduction matte was a lot stronger. So here you can see both of them swatched. Now, both of them are 2-layer swatched, and I feel like when I swatch this shade in the Bronze Seduction palette, which is from the 10-pan Mothership, the original shade, it's on the right. You can see it's a little bit richer, a little bit stronger. It is a little bit dry in consistency, but it's very, very nice when it's packed on the lid. But I do find that the Midnight Voyage one is a little bit drier yet. You can see that it's a little bit weaker in swatch, and it is a little bit weaker when applied on the eye as well compared to the Bronze Seduction matte. The rest of them that are repeat shades are very strong, like the shades in the other palettes, but this is just one I noticed was a little bit subpar for me. Here we have the swatches of the Midnight Voyage palette. You can also see here, this is only a 1-swipe swatch set, so that deep purple matte is even weaker yet in this swatch picture because it's only swatched once. So you can see the rest of them are still really, really strong, which I do appreciate. Like I said though, for PAT MCGRATH collectors, you're not going to want to buy this for just one brand new shade. I mean, it's also kind of like this really beautiful bronzy color, and we have some similar ones anyway in our collection. Now for my look today, I actually went all over the lid with the Skin Show Divine Glow shade. This is actually really, really beautiful. I did just buff this all over the lid, blending up into the crease and outward. I wanted to have a little bit of a highlight look with this look overall. I wanted to have kind of like that sparkle peek through, so I really, really liked it. It did perform beautifully as well. Next, I went in with Eleganza, which is one of my favorite shades. It's the one from Divine Rose 2. It's that beautiful lilac purple. It's gorgeous, extremely shimmery, and I went all over with a brush first, and then the second layer I actually patted on with a fingertip just for more pigment opacity. There's a little bit of fallout on the face with this formulation, but I'm used to it from working with Divine Rose 2. Next, I went in with the deep matte purple, that extreme aubergine shade, which is a little bit of a disappointment in this little palette. It's just a little bit poorer when it comes to performance. I did feel like I had to pack it on a little bit more than normal. Typically her mattes are quite pigmented, and I did notice a little bit of a change between the quality in this Midnight Voyage palette versus when I'm using it in Bronze Seduction. So it's just a little bit different there. Otherwise though, it was still really nice to control. I just had to pack it on a little bit more, and there was still fallout, but also that's something I'm used to from the Bronze Seduction palette as well. Lastly, I went in with the shade here, what's it called? Night Creature, and I kind of put it in the middle there to sort of give it a little bit of a purple gradient, which I really wanted. I wanted that shimmer, I wanted to have a purple gradient, I wanted all purple on my lids today, and it's perfect. I patted this with my fingertip for this one, just to give it the most impact. You can apply it with a brush, but be careful, this is the same formula as Eleganza. I feel like it's very similar, and this is one that will sheer out on a brush application versus a fingertip pressing motion. I added a little bit of that purple underneath my bottom lid, some liner, lashes, mascara, and here we are, which I do think worked out really beautifully. And this is a nice look you can get from the Midnight Voyage palette. So I do think that overall there's quite a bit of diversity here. I like that it's anchored with shades that we can use and we're familiar with. Nothing too bright, just has like that really gorgeous anchoring of those mattes, and we have some gorgeous pops of shimmer. Let's talk about the Divine Glow Highlight, and we also have the Divine Blush Duo. So I actually picked up the Highlight Lunar Allure. This is actually one of her new launches as well, and this is a very beautiful highlight from her. Love the packaging. It's a little bit more of a lightweight black lacquer, so the heaviest is obviously in this 10-pan Mothership palette kind of packaging style. This one is a black lacquer, but sort of like lighter. Very similar packaging to her first launch of her blushes. And this is a really pigmented, gorgeous highlight. You can see here when I'm applying it that it's like a stripe right away, so I had to blend that out to make it look more diffused. It's incredibly pigmented, very, very beautiful. I love the shimmer components to this one. It has a lot of different dimensions to it, and because it's a really gorgeous kind of white glaze on the skin, I think it's going to be beautiful on all skin tones. I really do think that. So this is a lovely one. I feel like I'm kind of like illuminating from my cheekbones, which I love. When it comes to texture, it's a little bit emphasizing, but nothing too crazy. So it is something, if you kind of keep it on the sheer side, the texture will stay a little bit hidden, but if you start to layer it, of course, your texture is going to pop through a bit more. My biggest tip with this one though is to go light-handed and build from there. Especially when you think about a brush, use a more diffused brush for this. I felt like the brush I used was a little bit too dense yet because I was like, wow, this is a stripe. I gotta be careful. So this is actually one that I really love. I do think this is a perfect highlight from her, and I'm impressed with it for sure. Next, let's talk about the duos, the blush duos. So this is the one I picked up. What's this one called? Aphrodite Amour. It's beautiful. It really is. It's a beautiful bright pink. I show you in the swatches here both of these shades separate and then how they are mixed, and it's very close. Some of them have more distinction between the two shades than others. This is one that's a little bit more not as stark of a color difference between the roses and the exterior of that circle there. There's some that are quite stark, or a little bit more of like a brown and a red, you know, it's a little bit brighter and the differences between the shades are more pronounced. This is one that I picked because I just wanted to have something easy, not to have to worry about swirling something that is very distinct and blend it evenly on the brush so that it gets that look, but I think I was just being lazy that day. This is a beautiful blush on the cheeks. You can see it's very, very stunning. I do feel like the formulation is very similar to the Divine blushes, the first launch. So this is the shade Nude Venus. I'm gonna see, okay, we have 9.7 grams in here, 9.7 grams in the Nude Duos. Yeah, they feel the same. Okay, so when it comes to how the formulations feel, they are identical. I just wanted to make sure. I was like, is it a little bit smoother in the new one? No, it's not. So it does feel like they're at par here. This is one where I do feel like you don't necessarily need in your collection, especially if you have the Divine blushes already. Any from the first launch will do. I don't think that these are unique enough necessarily to be like, wow, this is something different, something you should add to your collection. I really think this is best for like blush lovers. If you're a big fan of the Divine blushes, of course they are different shades, so you can definitely add one or two to your collection and the quality is still maintained and sustained, which I like. I think the duo is a nice touch, but you know, to keep it kind of interesting, but I don't think it's enough for me to be like, this is a must to add to your collection, unless you're a blush lover. So this one's kind of up to you. It has my stamp of approval, which is great for quality, but I sort of thought that because they're kind of like, you know, two-toned, there might be something a little bit different, maybe some shimmer or something, but this one in particular is not different. There's no like shimmer to it or anything. It's just what looks like two different shades you can blend together for a really beautiful flush on the cheeks. I purchased the palette from Sephora, and I believe that's exclusive to Sephora, and then the blush duo as well as the highlight I had purchased from Pat McGrath's site, but you can also get them at Sephora now. So they just launched the other day, so if you guys are interested in those, they are now at Sephora as well. Hope this review was helpful for you. Thank you so much for watching, and until my next one, guys, take care and stay safe. Bye, guys!